afternoon, everybody. Thanks for joining us in our latest instalment of our soundtrack to success. And this week, we're delighted to have Graham Shiers from the Business Catalyst Club to join us to reveal and talk all about his music. Good afternoon, Graham.
Afternoon, everybody.
How are you? Are you well?
Yeah, excellent. You
Good.
can't, can you?
No,
We're
good.
all, if you wake up in the morning and you're vertical and smiling, who could want them?
Well, my grandma used to say she got to 103 if she woke up and go, if I'm on my feet and breathing, and that was her catchphrase. I thought, yeah, I can stick with that. Just for those who don't know you, Graham, and anyone who's watching the recording, do you want to do a little bit of an introduction to yourself and the business?
Yeah, absolutely. What can I tell you? I started off life in the jewellery trade, going back a million years. Age of 19, I opened my first shop. Spent 20 years in retail and manufacturing and trade repairs before I exited and unexpectedly, at the time, fell into the legal industry. Spent another 20 years there. Had a great time working with some lovely people, and exited another business that I was involved with called the Entrepreneurs Club that I founded when I went, co-founded with somebody when I went into the legal sector. Somebody had an idea for something, brought me in to help get it off the ground. And I said, I'll do it for 3 months, thinking I could get away from it then. And 10 years later, I was still there and a director of a law firm. So it was a bit of a weird situation, but loved it. Great people to work for, great people to work with. We parted company about 3.5 years ago now. And I built up a reputation for putting people together involved in equity deals. People who needed money used to come to me and we'd find angel investors or funds for them. And so I thought, great, I'll take it easy, slow down, and that was that. And when people found out that I wasn't there anymore, I got driven mad. And as a bit of fun, we set up the Business Catalyst Club. And what it allowed me to do was do quite a few things that I'd wanted to do for a while, and put them in place, kicked it off, and it worked. It worked really well, and it grew very, very quickly. So what do? We are involved in equity deals. We're also involved in commercial finance. All sorts of things come across our desk, everything from property and land deals to acquisitions and disposals of businesses, MBOs, MBIs. And basically, we act as a middleman and broker them. We do get involved in 1 or 2 deals ourselves and have fun along the way. And we put events on. We do 4 live events a year in Leeds and latterly in Manchester. And then COVID hit. And if you remember, last year, around about March, they told us they were locking us down. And everything will be back to normal by May. And I thought, marvellous, we've just done our first events of the year. Next ones aren't till May. I can have a month off, enjoy myself, do the garden, all the things you want to do that you can't do normally, and get everything straight. Then we're back in business. And here we are today. So the back end of last year, we actually bit the bullet and went online and did. We wanted to differentiate ourselves from Zoom networking and everything else that was out there. So we spoke to a good friend and contact, the lovely Kate Hutchinson from the Secret Event Service. And she has a marvellous platform she uses called Hopin. And we've done 3, using that, we've done 3 expos come conferences, which have been fantastic. But is, you can't beat face-to-face. And I have been driven mad for the last 12 months with people, believe it or not, saying, when are you doing your next live event? And I know guys as much as you do. And please God, vaccine and roadmap permitting, we're back in business very shortly. We're just waiting for the go-ahead on the 17th of May, and then we'll be back to it. So I hope that's a bit of an explanation of who and what I am.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. No, we'll touch on sort of how you go around setting these things up late, because I think that's got real relevance. But obviously, we're here to chat about your fondness and love of your music, and especially, God, we want to know the story behind Johnny the Fox and Thin Lizzy, and because I've got to feel it, I love a bit of Thin Lizzy, I've got to say, like we chatted about tonight. But go on, tell us the story as to why Johnny the Fox and how you got into that kind of stuff.
I'll give you a bit of background. I grew up on a diet at home when I was a kid of everything, of a really broad cross section of music with my dad. Everything ranging from classical to blues, jazz, listening to him singing along at the top of his voice while he did his dance to Louis Armstrong, Bessie Smith, Pat Waller, and his all-time favourite was George Melly, who grew up in Liverpool next door to me, Auntie Audrey. So my kids all have it stuck in their head, memories of my dad serenading them at the top of his voice, singing the roast chicken song, which it turns out was actually called "Because It's So Good to Eat" by Ernie England and his orchestra. Because I found the 78 somewhere. So when you asked me about my favourite album, you completely threw me. Because like most of us, I've got so many favourites, and how do you pick one out? And I just said, Thin Lizzy, because it sticks in my mind, that album, because I can remember vividly as a kid at school at Harrogate Grammar, bunking off. Don't tell my mum, if she's watching this, she'll kill me. But I did bunk off school occasionally. And one of my pals lived at the back of the fields, of the playing fields, and a crowd of us used to go there occasionally, not very often, just occasionally, and go up to his attic where he had a bedroom and a record player, and he played us this new album, Thin Lizzy. Never heard of them and loved it. And that's how I got into that type of music. My early music collections range from or include Slade, still love Slade. Yeah. Susie Quattro.
Come on, pull up the picture there. There we go, Graham.
Signed autograph. Who else was?
You're not spinning around in disgust there, Richard.
I know. Genesis, Fleetwood Mac, Santana, Eagles, Led Zeppelin, Rush, all the usuals. Nowadays, though, it's anything from blues to rock, country rock. Love Garth Brooks. Classical, all things 70s.
Yeah.
Eros Ramazzotti, if you've ever heard of him. I had to mention that because my pal Sandy Domingos Shipley.
Oh, yeah, Sandy mentioned that, didn't she, on the LinkedIn post?
And most lately, believe it or not, electronic dance music. That came about because when all the gyms closed, I mean, I'm not exactly the fittest person in the world, but I like to stay a little bit healthy. Can't go to the gym, so started working out at home, borrowed some weights from a pal, and you've got to listen to music.
Yeah.
And I don't know how I fell into this dance music. And just before COVID, I went to a wedding abroad and really liked Israeli electronic dance music. DJs such as Mora Avrami and Yinon Yal. It's really weird, but fantastic to work out to. And I know he's not on here. He said he was coming on, but he's not come on. But Dean Towers, he put a post on LinkedIn when you posted about this. He said he'd love to know what I listen to on an evening.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what it is, Dean. At the moment, I'm really into swamp rock blues type music. People like Tony Joe White. So get the best of Tony Joe White, Polk Saladani and all that. Can't beat it.
Yeah, because I mentioned to you about C6 Steve, and you went, "Oh no, it's much more than that."
I like C6 Steve, but this is a bit too commercial. But this is good stuff. So that's me with music.
Yeah, but it's about, isn't it? It's having those different. I think the whole thing about this is having those different mixes, isn't it? It's having that eclectic mix, and I think you're going back to the point you made when you were at school. It was you either kind of fit into one. I think Mike and I talked about this when we had it. You used to fit into one kind of genre of music, but as you get older, it doesn't really matter.
No, it doesn't.
You can kind of you can kind of what you go through, what you want.
And we were chatting before this started, weren't we? And I mean, I mentioned. I mean, I can remember as a teenager hanging out at on a Saturday night. Every other Saturday night, the heavy metal disco at the Poly. That was brilliant. Viva's Wine Bar on York Street, listening to bands like Luigi and the Boys and others. Just brilliant.
It is, isn't it? And it's having those different things that you like, and you mentioned about working out as well. So I do a bit of running. I've always got some tracks on in my head to try and get motivated to try and do something. It just makes such a difference, doesn't it? To try and keep you going and things. And just going back to the 70s stuff we were saying before, it's amazing how you just remember all the words. You start finding, and you were just saying about, couldn't you, that trouble with new cars is you can't find a CD player, you can't get a CD slot in it, and I've got the same in mine. So we were just chatting about, hang on a minute, I've got so you've got to start downloading all this newfangled stuff, haven't you?
Pain in the backside, it is, honestly. But I don't know. It's the one thing about music, though, is sometimes it can be a bit of a disappointment or a shock to the system. I remember a few years ago going to see the Eagles in concert. I think they were at Huddersfield at the football ground, and the sound, just like they used to do, it was brilliant till 9 o'clock. And at 9 o'clock, it got dark enough for them to put the screens on, and you went, "Oh my God, we're all old men."
Yeah.
I'm looking around at the audience, I'm thinking, God, we're all knocking on a bit ourselves, aren't we?
Yeah, the main thing now when you go to the priority, when you go to the concert, is actually where's the lose. That's the first thing you look for. And then
what gets me with concerts, I don't go to that many nowadays, but
well, hang on, I'm going to pull you up on that a minute. You said when we first talked, you said, "Oh, I don't really go to many concerts," and then you reeled off this list of people.
Oh well, we've all done it in our time, haven't we? I mean, I made a list here out of interest. I'll tell you what I did.
And I'm just going to phrase this. When I spoke to Graham, he said, "Oh, I don't really go to concerts." And I went, "Okay." And then he mentioned I've been to one, and then for the next 5 minutes, I just shut up while he just reeled all this stuff off.
I started remembering stuff like Blue Oyster Cult. Yeah. I saw them at the Queen's Hall in Leeds. If anybody remembers that, when it was still up. Sex Pistols. That was brilliant. Took my missus on one of our first dates. We went to see Adam and the Ant. Diana Ross, Ian Gillan, UB40, Pretenders, Chris Rea. For any old buggers out there watching this, pardon my French, Janet. Linda Farm Christmas concerts. Oh, right.
Is that one of your groupies? No.
I think it's my mother ringing to tell me she just heard that I bunked us. So, we used to live near, and we still do actually live quite near Roundy Park. So Madonna, Michael Jackson, then there was the Eagles, Garth Brooks, Santana. One of my daughters took me to see Santana a few years ago in Manchester for my birthday, and I've always wanted to see him. And we went to see him, and it was phenomenal. And then he stopped playing, and he started talking, and she said, "Is he high? What's wrong?" Because he lives in a bygone age, and it's my people. I can feel the vibes coming across the room, and she's like, talking about. But anyway, but I tell you what, I was going to say, what gets me about concerts nowadays is my missus took me to see Paloma Faith at the Arena in Leeds, and she was really good, and I like her. And what struck me though was nowadays people don't watch concerts. It's like the two girls in front of us stood up, facing me, with their backs to the stage.
With the phone up.
Yes. For the whole, they never even saw her. Why would you waste your money? Just buy a DVD.
Exactly. No.
Do you think it's my age? Am I not?
No, I'm with you on that one. Because it does Mrs. H goes potty over it. Exactly the same thing. Exactly the same thing.
But I'll tell you something, you can't beat class. My wife and I went to see Bette Midler, and she, a few years ago, for her age, she never stopped. Talking to the audience, singing, dancing, unbelievable. Barry Manilow. we got taken to see Barry Manilow, courtesy of a lovely guy called Darren Boston, who has a box at the...
yeah, I know Darren. Yeah,
he's a fucking lad. Yeah. And we went with a load of people to see Barry Manilow, and boy, can he sing.
Yeah.
He can't move his face. He's had so much.
That's very true.
He shuffles very fast across the stage rather than run, but God, he can sing.
Yeah.
You can't beat class acts.
Yeah.
You really can't.
I was weaned on Barry Manilow. My mum was a massive, massive fan. So we had it blasted out of the house like you had with, George Melly. Mine was Buddy Holly and Barry Manilow from my mum. That was it. So yeah, and you can't beat a bit, can you? I'm not ashamed to say that I have a bit of Barry on my iPad and my iPod, and have a few tunes and stuff.
I'm partial to a bit of Chris de Burgh as well. But
blimey, Lady in Red. I see, but again, I just want to.
Mike Roberts is shaking his head at that one.
Is that not your thing, Mike? That's cut off, is it? And Mr. Mawson's keeping very quiet on that one.
Chris Rea, yes, Chris de Burgh.
All right. Well, for Richard Mawson, seeing he's got a Leeds Rhinos shirt in the background, I have got the South Standards CD as produced by Stevie Ward a few years ago. Have you got that one? Absolutely brilliant.
The drums and the band that's usually in the South Stand.
I know, but you know something, when you're feeling a bit down and there's no rugby and you're in the middle of COVID, sometimes you stick that on or you watch a replay of some old matches when we used to win them, and you can't beat it.
That reminds me, I used to get, you probably remember Shoot, the football magazine that used to come out on the Shoot soccer magazine.
I remember,
so in there you could buy in there they promoted the things like the Cop Choir, so you could buy an album of the Cop singing, going back years ago. Which I think I did have a tape recording of something somewhere years ago. But anyway, we'll move on from that one. Just wanted to talk a little bit around the concerts and the experiences. But we were chatting before that everything that you do around the events and all the things, you really put kind of like the customer at the heart of everything that you do. So it's like them going to a concert is like them coming to see you, isn't it? You want to make sure that they're having the best possible time when they come to your events.
Well, you have to do. I mean, the events we put on, I mean, our events are a bit different. They're first of all, they're invitation only. They're invitation only because we're trying to keep it at a level whereby we want decision makers in the room. Because that way, if you attend and you're talking to somebody and they are potentially useful or you can do business with them, hopefully you're talking to the right person in that organization. Mm-hmm. And, they're not doing a hard sell. They want to get to know you and build a relationship. And that's what it's all about. At the end of the day, it's building those relationships. So when we put the events on, there's a few things that are important for me. Obviously, the mix of people, making sure people are meeting the right people. We do that with the seating. We do it with personal introductions, so on and so forth, and getting the right speakers there. We've got some fantastic sponsors who always say a few words. We've had some brilliant guest speakers. We have a guest speaker on each occasion, and nobody's let us down so far. We've had some fantastic stuff. And we also feature a few businesses pitching for investment. And that's the only thing. You're in a bit of the lap of the gods with that one. We coach them, but on the day when they stand up, you don't know what they're going to say, and hopefully it works. And in a lot of cases, it does. But I try not to say too much. I mean, for 18 years, I was involved in another business whereby somebody else took the microphone. Mm-hmm. And he always used to say, as part of his patter, that Graham Shiers organises everything, and I hijack it at the 11th hour. And I was always pleased he did, because I never wanted a microphone. I could talk till the cows come home, but when you put a microphone in someone's hand, it's different. So when I set this up, I thought, how do I get out of talking? And I thought the best way is to let everybody else talk. Yeah. So quite often I'm stood on the sidelines watching, and anybody who comes along, you'll often see me just stood there while you're either eating or while you're listening to people, looking around the room. And what I'm doing is gauging the room. And if people are smiling and happy, we've cracked it. Yeah. And 9 times out of 10, they are. And it's going round and making sure. Somebody said to me, you treat this like as if it's a wedding. You come round to the tables and say, how are you? Are you enjoying yourselves? Of course we do. Because if you're not enjoying yourself or something's wrong, we need to know. We don't want people to come along. Time is valuable for all of us. Yeah. Why are you going to waste it on an event that's not going to do any good for you? So that's how I work.
Yeah. And it's all about putting and also the other thing that you do, which kind of ties in lots of what we talk about, is actually making sure you get the right people there.
Oh yeah.
So isn't it? It's about getting that customer persona, profile, call it what you will, nailed. So you're exactly getting the right people and not trying to be everyone, all things to everyone.
Look, we say decision makers. There are certain people in life who aren't at the top of the tree in an organization, but know how to act in those situations. And we've got a number of people who are brilliant, and they're fantastic introducers. And they're the sort of people who are connectors. I mean, I'm going to name somebody. I don't know if he ever sees this, but I will name him. There's a guy out there who works for Sagar's accountancy firm called John Burgess. One of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. He spends his life connecting people. It's not always going to be done to benefit him. But ultimately, what goes around comes around. But I've always said that you don't have to do everything with your hand out, because that old adage is so true. Givers gain.
Yeah.
You do good to other people, generally it comes back to you. That's just one of my philosophies in life.
And I think that's reflected in the events that you do, and some of the stuff we talked about before, because it's so important to get those engagement bits right with your customer to make sure you're doing the right thing at the right time. We call them touch points, whatever it might be, but it's all about getting the stuff that's right. It's vital, and that's something you carry through. I just wanted to touch a little bit about, you talked about the jewelers before. When you started off, you talked about then you played music, didn't you, when you had people coming in, which would just be a nice way to.
Maybe, yeah.
Well, that was the case. So, what was the story behind why you did that?
Well, because you need something during the day, don't you? You need a little bit of background noise. I mean, Mike Roberts is smiling, and that's how I when I mentioned not Chris Rea,
Christa Berg, was it?
Mr. Berg. It's a sort of perfect sort of stuff. Kenny G. You'd never in a million years usually listen to, but background lift music, it's not too bad.
And did you find that kind of inspired? Did you change the type of music depending on who was in the shop?
Well, it depends on the time of year. I mean, God, Christmas. Now that's what I call Christmas. Well, by Christmas Eve, I was ready to throw the blooming thing at the wall. Times you can listen to it all. But,
it gets a bit too much, doesn't it?
It does.
Yeah. No, brilliant. Now, listen, Graham, we'll wrap it up on that. But anyway, thank you so much for your time.
Hey, listen, I've enjoyed it. It's been great.
It's been nice to turn the tables a little bit, actually, and having you chatting rather than. But I hope you guys who've joined us have enjoyed it. It's been great to get a bit of an insight into Graham from a different perspective. And thanks for your insight.
Right from after this.
Say again, sorry.
I hope no one's going to blame me for my musical taste after this.
I don't think so. No, I think we've all got some things in there to talk about that we'll probably think we're on. But I think we're all old enough now, so actually, who really cares? No one really bothers, do they?
I'm going to get my own back on you for this somehow.
Yeah, I'm sure you will. I think there's that what goes around comes around, isn't it? That kind of thing. Well, you can get your own back because the next guest we've got on is actually Dean Towers. So
right.
Wow. Mr. Towers is going to be on towards the end of next month. We've got him booked in. We've got his incriminating photograph up online. And if you've already signed up to join to this one, you will automatically get an invite to the next one and also notification on the day. So thank you for taking the time out of your day to join myself and Graham. Graham, I really, really have enjoyed it and really appreciated your time today. Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Lovely to see you all.
Yeah. Cheers, guys. Take care. Enjoy.